go straight to the last contribution. Thank you.
Thank you.
And it's about an experience which is maybe not so big in numbers, but I think it's quite...
It's not an experience, it's a national issue, a 4-year experimental courses, classes, but we looked only to one region once. Let me start the presentation, okay. Which is the region that I and my colleague belong to. We are okay, that's okay. We are school in ministry inspectors, and we work in Ufficio Scolastico of Emilia Romagna, Bologna, and so we made an analysis of the results of the 4-year experimental tracks, which in our region, because we had full access to data of our region, but the experimentation is a national one. It was proposed by the Ministry of Education in starting with in 2018-19. An experimentation of 4-year upper secondary education tracks rather than the ordinary 5-year length for the ordinary Italian tracks. It was a call for proposal. Schools were requested or asked to propose an experimental track within the courses they already had, and almost 200 classes were authorized by the Ministry of Education. They were mainly DCM1, some but not very much technical tracks, no vocational tracks because they were not addressed for this kind of experimentation, and 1/3 of this 192 schools were private schools, private ones. The ministry guidelines strongly stressed for the need of an innovative approach of teaching methodologies such as laboratory methodologies, effective content and learning, integrated language, elective classes, and mainly a strong rearrangement of the school agenda and weekly lesson timetable, because schools were requested to organize the whole amount of hours which is in the 5-year tracks, almost all the whole amount of hours in 4 years instead of 5 years, and this of course required a stronger organization of the school agenda, because the aim was to obtain in 4 years the same educational results of the 5-year tracks. In June 22, the first cohort of students which initially began the pilot programs graduating, and they took both the ordinary state exam and the ordinary standardized INVALSI standardized tests, which were grade 12 instead of grade 13, but it was the same, exactly the same test of their 5-year needs. In June 2023, even students of the second cohort of 4-year classes graduated, and graduate is also the students which started with the first cohort of 4-year students started with an ordinary 5-year course. The research questions are about the results of this experimentation, and mainly whether the final skills of the 4-year students are comparable to those of the 5-year mates, both disciplinary skills and life skills, soft skills, whether social and cultural status of the students, of the 4-year students, affected the decision to enroll in the 4-year tracks, and mainly if it possibly affected the final individual results, and whether the implementation by the teachers of innovative teaching methodologies had an impact on students' skills. To the best of our knowledge, no one, this is the first attempt to analyze from a qualitative point of view the results, the outcomes of this experimentation, and we think that this is important mainly for the policymakers to take the right decisions. We checked in our region. There were 11 tracks. We checked each one of them. 6 scientific lyceums, 4 linguistic lyceums, 1 technology track. It was an information technology track. With data from state exam in 2022, we mainly examined data for 2022. We examined individual scores for the 3 tests that students have in the state exam. The first written test in Italian, the second written test, which is track-specific, maths for scientific lyceums, English for linguistic lyceums, and so on, and the oral test. We examined the scores of the about 2,000 students in the 4-year tracks, and we compare them not with all the students of the region, but we compare them only with the students of the 11 schools which hosted this experimentation, and with the parallel 5-year courses, scientific, linguistic, information technology. And this to enhance the comparability, mainly in school evaluation, which are strongly dependent on the human factors of the teachers. As for INVALSI data, we merged both in 22 and in 23 the data with grade 8, the grade 12 and 13 with grade 8, mainly to gather information, context information, and to gather information, look information on grade 8 results, even though unfortunately for year 17 and year 18 there was a change of methodology from pen and pencil to computer-based, and so they're not directly comparable. We also examined, for comparison purposes, grade 10 data, but I will not report about them. Moreover, some additional data was collected from school, mainly about class sizes, possible preliminary test in enrolling students, grade 8 state exam results. And also we had some interviews with the teachers and board of examiners of the state exam, both in 22 and in 23. I will report data mainly from 22 because 23 are yet in a preliminary stage of examination. I anticipate the conclusion, so I will not have time problems. The conclusion is that there are no univocal results, but anyhow some trends emerge with enough evidence. The difference between 4 and 5 here results seem not to be so relevant, so significant. Other factors, there are more or less differences, we will see them, but they are not so big. Other factors have a greater impact on students' outcomes. They are already well-known factors, e.g., for instance, students' outcomes at grade 8, therefore the entry level in the first class of upper secondary schools, parents' education, students' gender. Therefore, it can be assumed that the Ministry of Experimentation somehow appears to have been achieved. The aim of the Ministry of Experimentation seemed to be achieved, that the 4-year classes obtain similar comparable results to the 5-year classes. And exam data and INVALSI data seem to show similar trends. In exam data 2022, 4-year students seem to achieve equal or better skills for the discipline which characterize the tracks: maths for scientific, English for linguistic, information technology for information technology track, and the oral test shows better results in soft skills and multidisciplinary abilities, and the teacher attribute this to the different teaching and laboratory methodology they adopted in the 4-year courses. It must be noted that in 2018, and therefore in the 22 exam, 4-year students had mean higher entry levels, mean higher grade 8 entry levels. This is not true for 2023 students. 2019 students which graduated in 2023. In the 4-year tracks, as a matter of fact, there is a higher student dropout because a larger number is not actually a dropout, but they simply leave for traditional 5-year tracks, the same track or the same parallel track or other tracks. As for the teaching approach, I just said, and this is the main conclusion. As for the development, I talked about at the end. Let's examine in detail data, state exam 2022 scores. In Italian, okay, it works. No, it doesn't work.
Yeah, it works.
It was, but not okay. In Italian, 4-year and 5-year students show similar results. Students show better results in few lower levels and higher and more higher levels in the second test, which is track specific. And in the oral test, more higher levels, 39-22 opposite to 30-32%. And therefore, as for this data, students seem to achieve the same or better results compared to their 5-year peers. They overperform in track-specific skills and in the oral test, where are measured also soft skills abilities such as problem solving, autonomy, proactivity in answering the questions, multidisciplinary connections, and so on. Let's switch to INVALSI test. First with the levels, 1 to 5. In Italian, the first plot, grade 12, 4-year track, 5-year track, 4-year track, 5-year track. The results are similar in Italian, maybe more populated, the intermediate levels. In maths, the wings are more populated, level 1 and level 5. In English, 4-year tracks show better results. And this basically confirms what we already said with reference to the exam results. There are no correlations. This is a well-known issue. There are no correlations. No, you can see the pointer between exam score and INVALSI tests, but there is no difference between 4 and 5-year tracks. And basically because exam scores are not a normal distribution, so it's quite difficult to correlate. If we examine the WLE, the scores, the points of the single class, 5 minutes, okay, I think I get it. If we correlate the single class in light blue, this is only for scientific, traditional scientific track. In light blue, 4-year class. In red, the 5-year class. We can see no relevant differences in Italian, while a little better results in maths, the second, which corresponds to the second test of the exam. And so we can say that there is a kind of good fitting between exam scores and INVALSI test results. And the question is there was a selection in accessing, selection or self-selection in accessing the 4-year tracks, and the answer for 2022 is yes, for 2023 is no. For 2022, the answer is yes. The majority of classes had higher grade 8 entry levels. 2 schools made an entry selection because the requests were more than the available seats. And there are anyhow 3-4 classes, it depends on INVALSI or state exam data, would show lower level in grade 8 data. And anyhow, there is a quite good overlap between exam data, the first column, exam data. This is the difference between 4-year and 5-year on basis 10, and INVALSI data. And what about parent education, which is one major issue about INVALSI results? 4-year students, parents, there is a higher percentage in parents of a 4-year student who has at least 1 degree. it is the 5% more with respect to 5-year classes. And this is detectable even in grade 10 students. And so we could ask if there is some kind of cultural, family cultural self-selection. Anyhow, the global scores, both INVALSI and exam, are similar or higher in 2022 for students, 4 and 5 years. But there is a kind of parent education which affects more the families, which affects more the results of 4-year students. For instance, we look at the scores in INVALSI Italian. The mean is 4-year students the same as 5-year students. But if we focus on students with parents with no degree, and the difference with parents with at least 1 degree, the difference is 17 points. While for 4-year students, if we focus on 5-year students, the difference is 6 points. And this is similar in all the columns. Data into data of two, so there is a kind of family effect, and this is of course something that should be better further analyzed. In 2023, difference seemed less significant. I mean, there is anyhow an effect of parents' degree on students' results. It's a well-known effect, but it seems to be a little more higher for 4-year students. As for qualitative data, teachers says that the students have developed higher soft skills in the connection among disciplines and current events, group work, problem solving, and so on, and attribute this to the diverse teaching methodologies that they adopt. Preliminary analysis of 2023 data basically do not change more or less the things. Scores in 2023 exam are very, very similar, very limited differences between 4 and 5-year tracks. INVALSI scores are slightly lower for 4-year tracks, but it should be noted that more than 50% of classes has lower grade 8 levels. And the trends in parent degree, we already said, are similar but less pronounced. We already spoke about the conclusions. As for the future development, we think that the analysis should be expanded to a national level because there are more data, and therefore there are fewer possible artifacts in the analysis. And the influence of parents' degree should be further, better analyzed, and it should be very interesting if we could make something like a school effect for 4-year tracks to be compared with the common school effect for 5-year tracks. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paolo.